liking someone, catching feelings, as the kids say. Is that what people are saying? I think that's what it's called. Starting to imagine what it would be like to go on holiday with them, to spend Christmas with them, to spend your birthday with them. You imagine what they would be doing if you were here with them right now. Hey everyone, Cheryl here. Welcome back. This week we are talking about why it is you daydream about him or her, depending on who you date. Why is it we daydream? Why is it we fantasize? Now, we're not talking about sexual fantasy. That's something quite different. What I really want to talk about is this pattern. I call it misfantasy relationship, and this is actually something that I cover in the 6 Dating Drama Archetypes course, which goes into these patterns in a lot more detail and where they come from. But misfantasy relationship is when we find ourselves daydreaming about this person. We're not dating them, but we're imagining what it might be like to date them, right? Now, what's the difference then between healthy daydreaming and daydreaming that becomes unhealthy and is a pattern and a sign of something deeper going on? Well, it becomes a sign of something deeper going on when we find ourselves repeatedly doing this with each person. And if we're really honest with ourselves and we look at it, we know that it's a pattern for us. So let's really start to unpack what this pattern looks like. It looks like liking someone, catching feelings, as the kids say. Is that what people are saying? I think that's what it's called. When you start to like someone, have a crush on them, maybe you've been on a date, maybe you haven't, maybe there's someone from work, who knows, but you find yourself starting to imagine what it would be like to go on the next date with them, to go on holiday with them, to spend Christmas with them, to spend your birthday with them. You imagine what they would be doing if you were here with them right now. And you start to imagine what that would be like. Now, if that starts to go on for a period of time being a couple hours, period of time being, happens over the course of a couple weeks, and you know that you do that with each person, that's when it starts to become a pattern. Now, even though this is my archetype of misfantasy relationship, I actually found out the other day there's a psychological term for this, and the psychological term is maladaptive daydreaming. Maladaptive daydreaming. What does that mean? Maladaptive means it used to help me cope with something that was difficult and traumatic, and now it's kind of ruining my life. That's what maladaptive means. It means it used to help me to cope, now it's really causing problems. So where would that come from, do you think? As a child, why would it be that you would daydream excessively? Well, you would do that to escape. You do that to escape a very difficult reality in your life, in your emotions, in your family home, most likely. So if you grew up in a home that didn't feel safe, that felt scary, that felt like you wanted to escape from it, then what you would do is you would daydream, right? Other children may cope with it in different ways. They may paint, they may draw, they may play, they may read, they may do a whole manner of things, but you daydreamed, right? You daydreamed. And so what happens then as an adult is this becomes a way of coping with really painful feelings. And we might not know directly what's triggered it or what's caused it. And that's, of course, work that we can do. If we start to get into this pattern, we can ask ourselves, well, okay, what triggered this? What triggered me to start daydreaming? Well, he didn't call back, right? He didn't call back, he didn't text back. And so that got me daydreaming. Well, what would happen if he did? So the question becomes then, and this is really the circuit breaker, this is how we're going to break the cycle on this, is to say, what painful feeling are you avoiding? What painful feeling are you avoiding? How could you lean into that feeling and lean into that fear? How could you reassure yourself that you're going to be okay no matter what the outcome is? And then what that starts to do is break this cycle on this pattern. So we're not really addressing the pattern directly. We're never really addressing the pattern directly. We're naming the pattern, we're understanding what it looks and feels like, and what we're then doing is going to the source fix. It's really not about the pattern itself. The pattern is not the problem. The pattern is the symptom of the problem, right? So for example, I've been sober for 5.5, nearly 6 years. It'll be 6 years in October. And so when I was drinking and I was going out and acting all intense in the clubs and it was a real problem, me being drunk wasn't the problem. That was a symptom of the problem. I was using alcohol to numb out from feelings I didn't want to feel because I hadn't faced my trauma, right? So the problem there, the core problem was the trauma and the feelings that I didn't want to feel. The symptom was alcohol. And actually with this pattern of fantasy relationships, particularly when we get into like the real maladaptive daydreaming, that can start to become quite addictive too, because it's a way of coping. Just like we'd use alcohol or drugs or shopping, or some people use sex or gambling, whatever it could be, workaholism, anything that's addictive and that helps you to cope with a difficult feeling becomes addictive. So this daydreaming can become quite an addictive pattern. So we're not going to actually deal with the pattern. We're going to really look at what caused it and how we can be okay. There are 3 questions that can help you with this. You might have heard me say this before. Whether you have or whether you haven't, let's do this together. You're going to close your eyes, put your hand on your heart, and you're going to ask yourself, how do I feel? What do I need? How can I give that to myself? Right? You can open your eyes now if you haven't already. So write down those questions. Ask yourself those questions when you're in a really quiet, still place. And what that does is that starts to nourish your inner child. You start to reparent yourself. And what reparent means is you give yourself the nourishment and the support and the love that you wish you got as a child. But you're your parent now, right? You now nourish yourself. You now take care of this inner child that's within you. And you do that by asking those 3 questions. And again, if you want to go deeper with this work, you can do that through 2 of my courses, the Dating Drama Empowerment Method and the 6 Dating Drama Archetypes. Comment below and I'll send you those details. I really hope this helped you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.